exciting. Well, not as exciting as like, an amusement park happens.
Chickens playing piano.
My chickens don't come near my piano, poop on my piano. So this is why I have this background. It's partly convenient because we have.
For those out there who can't see, she's sitting in front of an American flag and she looks like she's at a political rally or something.
I do, but there's something very unique about this flag. Do either of you notice what's different about this flag?
No.
Dun.
Number of stars.
Perfect. You got it. Yeah. So
we can't see the whole number of stars. So.
Well, you can't, but on the current flag, the stars are offset from each other.
Right.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
These are all parallel. They're all, perfectly in rows and columns like this. And that's because instead of 50, there are 48 stars on this flag. Oops, I forgot to turn the volume off on my phone. I did not. Okay, but anyway, the reason this is exciting is because somewhere along the line, I found this historic flag that's, got to be 60, 70 years old. And as we were packing up my house in Brooklyn Park, getting ready to move, for some reason, I started asking, where is this flag? And my son told me, and this is the closest he's ever come to death at my hands. He's like, oh, I gave that to the VA or VFW to get rid of and burn. I'm like, you fool, that's a historic flag. Can't go down to the store and buy one anymore. And so because I don't know if you can tell from my face, I've been losing all that weight that I put on when I had to teach by Skype and my throat hurt so badly.
Mm-hmm.
I was digging through this bin full of clothes that didn't fit me for a while and do again. And at the bottom of that bin, there's my historic flag.
Wow.
The Women of Appalachia Project was founded by Carrie. You asked me too quick. Oh,
sorry.
I completely blanked out. Carrie Gunter Seymour. And she is now the Poet Laureate of Ohio.
Oh, neat.
But she is a fabulous poet, and she wanted to bring attention to the voices that were not being heard, which are traditionally women of Appalachia. We've never been heard. And so she put out a call for people to submit works. And when I submitted this work, I did not know that it was a spoken word thing. Oh, and I thought it was a written anthology. And so I sent Redemption off without much hope, and I got accepted. And then as I read the acceptance, it started dawning on me that I was expected to read this piece around the region in front of people. And I don't really have a fear of talking to crowds, but I have never done anything like this before. And so I went to the first one, and everybody before me got up and they performed. And I got up there with my little piece of paper and I read it. And I was terrible. I bombed. It was awful. And so I called a friend when I got home, and she majored in speech, and had her coach me. And so I now am reasonably confident on the spoken word circuit. So
that's great. And this project was actually started to counteract some of the negative stereotypes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's, I think everybody knows the stereotypes, the negative ones. Do you think that there are any positive stereotypes of women?
Absolutely. Appalachians in general are known for being resilient. We bounce back from the most awful things. But Appalachian women are particularly strong. They had husbands who were in the mines all day long. So they weren't, from sunup to sundown, the husbands were gone. There was no help. And so they were basically single parents. And before that was any kind of norm, there was no money. There was never any money. And so everybody had a job. So they were working women before that was common. There's lots of strengths to Appalachian women.
Okay, beer number 2 is from Clown Shoes Brewing, and it is, I guess, sort of appropriately named for the themes, Crunkle Sam. So Uncle Sam, but with crunk dancing. It is an American barley wine aged in bourbon barrels.
Oh, that sounds good.
So, it's a little more hop forward than you might like, Laura, because it's an
Well,
American barley wine, but
I
you
didn't
might like
find it. I got a
Oh, you
different,
didn't find it.
yeah, because I didn't find it. So, but Chris grabbed me a barley wine. So
Okay,
maybe,
which one do you have? What do you have?
let me see. Pillar Beasts. Does that look familiar to you?
No, but I know that brewery, and it's likely to be an American style as well, so it should be
Okay.
pretty hoppy too. So
Okay.
we're on the right track.
Excellent.
So I picked. This is the only barley wine I could find, unless I wanted to pay like a bajillion dollars for a single bottle, which I didn't. So I wanted a barley wine though, because this next piece is, as I was reading it, it's very contemplative. It's like sitting and I was imagining the person kind of sitting maybe by a fireside, I don't know, but sitting very calmly and thoughtfully and just like going through the subject matter that they're talking about. And so I wanted a beer that was equally contemplative, a beer that you would put in a snifter while you're sitting and thinking things through. So barley wine seemed right. As I said, Crunkle Sam was the one I could find. So cheers.
Cheers. What do you think?
I like this one. You get it's
I
nice,
like it.
kind of bourbon, the vanilla caramel bourbon character, but you do have some pretty intense, resiny, like grapefruit peel hops there too. But it's pretty balanced by some malt sweetness, so it's not excessively hoppy.
I really like it. I like the flavor of this. Yeah, so
Awesome.
this is one I'll be finishing. Sounds
Beautiful.
like I
It's
give to
probably really
Chris.
high alcohol, just to warn you.
I made sure to eat before.
Okay.
Bobby killed his first North Vietnamese after being in country for only 8 days, well before he was legally old enough to drink. On that day, he ceased to be a Missouri farm boy and became a soldier. He was 19. He had a year stateside beforehand. He was older than some of the guys he bunked with, older than the bodies they carried out of the jungle, older than the boy he killed. He took up beer drinking in earnest. Its availability was sporadic, and it was always warm and stale, but it was alcohol. Enough of them and he could sleep over the sounds of the moans, half screams, and the shuffling of cards of those who spent their nights playing solitaire. Sleep was not respite, and in some instances dangerous. There were tales of the North Vietnamese sneaking in, slashing the throat of your buddy while you slept, rebuked for falling asleep when you were supposed to be sentry. It was a terrible price for sleep, but the body sometimes needs what it needs. Vietnam teaches you a lot of things. It especially teaches you about desperation and the actions that accompany it. It teaches you that some think life is cheap. It teaches you that nothing is crueler than desperate young men. It can teach you the power of redemption, but you must allow yourself to be vulnerable. Vulnerability takes great strength of character, of willpower. War is neither for the naive nor the cowardly. Bobby didn't sleep. Neither did his roommate, Carl. Carl was standing sentry. Bobby was lost in memories of home, of high school, of bonfires and pep rallies and crisp autumn leaves. A tear slid down his cheek. The beer was warm. Carl's head jerked when he caught himself nodding off. He slid off the bunk and walked to the doorway. Standing helped, sort of. In Vietnam, nothing really helped, but there was protocol and rules and regulations. Bobby popped the last beer and looked at his watch. 4 hours until dawn. The small hours of the night were dangerous, and he was not drunk enough to forget that.
That was a hard piece to read when you sent it to me. It really kind of made me think of The Ugly American. Is that a book you've read?
I'm sorry, it reminds you of what now?
The Ugly American.
Ah,
Have you read that book?
no, I haven't.
I can't remember who it's by. I think it was a very well-known book in its time, and I was reading it when one of my kids was born. I took it to the hospital.
Ah,
I reached a scene in there. I'm not even going to describe it. It was so horrible what was done to these men that I couldn't finish reading it. And I think I'm kind of partly fascinated by any movie or book about war, maybe in part because, that's part of my background. But especially as a mother, my 20-year-old is in the Army. My Marine is out. I'm sure he can be called back up for the next few years. But it's very hard to listen to these things and to think that, that could be my son. And it really tells you why do we have a problem with PTSD in our veterans.
it does.
And